When She Cries by Armalite. She loved the wind under her wings. She loved the way it blew through her mane, and the way it slid over her coat. The soft liquid air was her escape from the hard, unforgiving ground. The air wrapped you tight, and the air flows with your every movement. The air soothes the soul and eases the mind. Her red mane was blown back as she flew without direction. She had to take her mind off of things. The air caught her tears and carried them downwards in its grasp. The air parted the heartbroken Pegasus, allowing the passage with no interruption. The sky was filled with dark overcast, blotting out the vibrant sun from allowing its rays to reach the forest under the mare. Being above the forest always made her calm, and always soothed her. It was her escape from reality, the sky above that forest, the forest where nature had its own free will, the forest that had ignored the princess's night and day, the forest that had sheltered creatures of all kinds, and that accepted others with no qualms. She came here often. The air above the forest had known her sadness, and smoothed her mane back with its breath. It whispered and cooed in her ears. She breathed heavily as more tears were carried to the ground, where they soaked in between the cool blades of grass. Mountains loomed in her view, steadily watching her pass.
You don't know. You weren't there. You don't know what it's like to feel them watching.
The voice, her voice, screamed and echoed in her mind. The words rang in her ears, blinding her with their sound. Over the sound of the air's grasps and breath, she could hear herself screaming one last time.
You said you'd always be there for me. Well, then why aren't you here now?
The air carried her sobs and hiccups away from her and into the past. Her eyes, the colors of an aged red wine, were cracked by lighter red lines and refracted by the tears that were carried away by the wind. Those eyes had haunted her in her dreams and in the mirrors of her home. They followed her and judged her, watching her every move with intent. She squeezed her eyes closed and shook her head, rocking several teardrops from her eyes.
Why? Why? Oh, gods, I'm so scared. I'm so scared, Webs. Please, please don't go. Don't go.
She sobbed, and dipped downwards through the air's loving grasp. She flew over the forest that watched her go. The forest caught her tears and quickly allowed them to sink into its form. The trees and plants soaked the tears into their bodies, preserving them for eternity in their veins. The air around her grew dark with sorrow, and it too started to cry, releasing a large, clear tears that fell onto the mare's coat.
Webs, I don't know what happened.
The air cried and roared with great bellows of sorrow. The sky grew black over the thirsty forest as the mare's tears mixed with those of the skies. The sound of the sky's bellows surrounded the mare, so loud and so forceful, the mountains so far away quaked with fear at the sound. Flashes of the sky's rage cracked the skyline. It dashed and bolted across her vision like the violent cracks of a whip upon the backs of a car pulling ponies. It raced and arced downwards to the ground, setting large patches of the forest in flames, and the sky and the ground fought. The mare angled herself to the ground. The sky's tear ran down her coat, and were carried off in the air as she plummeted to the forest earth.
It killed her. Oh, God's Webs. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It wasn't me. Please, please don't go.
She sliced through the darkness of Sky's anger like a bolt from a crossbow. She could feel herself gaining speed. She felt the wet, mournful air tighten around her in anticipation. Her eyes squinted closed as the pressure built. She watched through tight eyes as the forest grew larger and larger, awaiting her arrival.
Webs, it wasn't me. Please, it wasn't me. I didn't do this. Webs!
The air carried her downwards in its grasp, holding her close and wrapping her tight. She cried with sorrow as she reached the pinnacle of the dive.
Webster, please, don't leave me. Webster, I love you.
There was an explosion of green and red colors as the mare snapped free of the air's grasp and rocketed towards the waiting ground. The rainbow left behind her was her last scream, her last cry, her last punch in the unwinnable fight against life. When she hit, it was felt across the nation. The ground shook and the mountains quaked. The air trembled and the oceans wavered. The creatures ceased their singing and their talking, and time faltered. The air fell silent as one more tear from its form and onto the form of the mare. The princess of love felt a dagger of grief and rage pierce her heart, leaving her on the marble of the floor miles away in pain. Honis gasped in shock at the spectacle above the forest, with its ebony black thunderheads and the bolts and cracks of lightning. And above all, there was a flash of red and green as the mare poured her heart into the sky for it to carry it away. On the forest floor, the mare's crimson mane was covered in the earth's filth. Her emerald green coat was dull and wet from the air's tears. Several days later, a group of hikers would find her body. They would take it back to the town where her ex-cult friend would identify her. She would be cremated and taken to the Hollymere cemetery. Her medical reports would read, "Prone to hallucinations, extreme schizophrenia. Seek help." Her police record would say, "Storm Shade, a single murder-suicide, history of breakdowns." And her tombstone would scream, "Here lies Storm Shade. When she smiles, the Everfree shines. When she frowns, the Everfree storms. When she cries, the Everfree reigns." The end.